Welcome to Rarified Air, and I'm here with my guest, Randy Pallotta. You know, this podcast is really a new thing for me. I'm really excited about it, and we have some great guests in the lineup. But Randy, I picked you to be the first guest on this podcast series for a lot of reasons, but I think you really personify the rarefied air, the high-touch experience, the passion for success. You got it, man.
Well, thank you, John. Coming from you, that is one heck of a compliment.
We've known each other for quite a while.
Yep.
Why don't you take us back to the beginning of when we met and how we got started?
Oh, absolutely. And I remember it quite well. I'm sure you've done probably thousands of job interviews in your career. Yeah, more than a few dozen anyways. And mine was very memorable for me. You weren't necessarily giving me the technical grilling that I came prepared for. You were more focused on who I am as a person and what motivates me. And I remember you asked me what was I passionate about, and outside of work, I play a lot of music. And it just so happened a couple nights before that, I had a 6-hour gig where I played my guitar so much that my hands were bleeding at the end of the show. And I had the sort of scars. And I said, well, here's an example of passion for you. And then right as I was getting ready to go, I kind of asked you, well, what did you think? And what you said to me was, well, I don't know where you're going to end up here, but I know where I'd like you to start. And that really stuck with me.
In those days, I did the first round interviews. I figured, you know, if I didn't want to hire somebody, why bother everybody else?
Yep.
And if I did, let other people interview you as well. And if I made a mistake, they'd let me know.
Yep.
So that approach worked pretty well. There were 4 things I look for, and I still look for these 4 things. A high degree of aptitude, killer instinct, basically a high degree of initiative, passion, which I'll come back to, and then professionalism. And I want to see compelling evidence in all 4 of those. And I think those 4 attributes, they really complement each other. If you find somebody who's smart, who has drive, driven for success, and is passionate about it, it implies a lot of things. It implies that, they're true in terms of their intention to help people, to build products, passionate about many things. And I like working with people who have high energy.
Yeah, well, and
like
it's
yourself.
clear. And that's, when you get to InterSystems and you're surrounded by other people that are passionate, you kind of don't want to let them down. And it really is just, it's a fire that fuels itself, has been my experience here.
So, Randy, we talk a lot about kind of the high-touch customer experience. It was important, when we started years ago. It's important now.
Yep.
For the benefit of our listeners, how would you describe the high-touch experience here?
Sure. We work in healthcare, certainly not our only line of business, but that is certainly a big focus for us. And in healthcare, it's a surprisingly small world. And healthcare really fascinates me because more so than any other line of business, it's not pure competition. They will share information with each other about what works well. They share information about technology decisions that they make. And referenceability and word of mouth is everything in healthcare. Your reputation is going to make or break you. At the end of the day, there's 4,500 hospitals, and because they're willing to share information with each other about what works well and what doesn't work well, the InterSystems model, that high-touch model, is crucial. Fortunately for us, we've built up a really stable, successful business model that allows us to invest in customers in ways that our competitors don't have that luxury. And we leverage that to the nth degree. I have never once been told you need to be worried about a flight expense to go out and help a customer on site. That is just not how we operate here at InterSystems. Coming from prior employers where you'd be helping a customer with a problem, and then all of a sudden 8 hours are up, and geez, the problem's not solved, but before I keep going, I need you to sign this quote for a couple $100 an hour because I think I'm going to be here another day. At InterSystems, we don't operate that way. We are fundamentally opposed to that way of thinking. It's do what you have to do to make the customer successful. And that success continues to breed more success.
Well, that's great, Randy. We have a motto: when we're not sure what to do what's right for the customer.
Yep.
And, we have several sayings like that that really help solidify the culture. We'll come back to culture in a few minutes. Let's talk about some success stories with customers. Yeah, you've worked in support, you've worked in sales, you're the head of sales engineering for North America.
Yep.
You must have a lot of stories.
Yeah, wouldn't even know where to start. We've seen so many projects, large and small, successful. For instance, one of our customers, they're, I believe right now, the third largest health system in the United States of America. They decided to consolidate. They operate about 150 hospitals in 26 states, and they had a problem of decentralization. One of the lines of business that we're focused on is integration. At that point in time, when they came to us, they had 38 servers spread across these 26 states, running 14 different integration engines with teams spread all over the place, and they had a mission to consolidate. And that centralization has obvious benefits, but they had tried and failed with two other big tech IT vendors. So they had a great deal of skepticism that they could actually pull this off. They selected InterSystems. We invested heavily in their success, as we do. To be fair to them, they really brought their A game, and they had learned a couple lessons from the prior two experiences. But what's really remarkable about this project is it took about 5 years. The budget was about $33 million, and they came in on time at $33 million. When you think about an IT project that runs that long and with that type of budget, very, very rarely do you see them finish on time and under budget. They've had virtually no outages where they were experiencing about a dozen hours a month, even at a single hospital. And the last thing I'll say about it is, to my knowledge, it is the largest centralized healthcare integration engine running on the planet.
How much should we charge for the services?
$0 over the course of the 5 years of mentoring. We flew out. They have locations in several states. We must have went on site upwards of a dozen times. We were there for the go-lives, there for the upgrades, really making them comfortable and ensuring the success.
I remember one story where we literally went the extra mile. There was a hurricane coming into Louisiana. It was a major hurricane. And the Department of Veterans Affairs, one of our customers, was moving patients to other parts of the country, like to Texas and out of harm's way.
Yep.
And they ran local on-prem systems at that time. They had to take the backups of those systems, bring them to other locations and fire them up. We put people on the road to meet them at the destination to make sure that went smoothly.
Yep.
And it did, So, yeah, we go the extra mile. So, I've thought for a long time, you can have a great product, but if you don't have the service to really make it shine and stand out, ultimately it's not going to be successful, and your clients won't be as successful.
Yep.
So I've always thought of support as a competitive advantage.
Yep.
And you're in sales now, so you compete.
Yep.
How do you position what we do, this high-touch, rarefied air experience, as competitive advantage?
I would like to think that any software company out there, could learn from the way that we've leveraged that high-touch model to promote sales activities. But at a high level, I'll walk you through this story. Of course, we have our slides, right? And on those slides, you'll see things like our customer, quotes that come in. Things like, even at their low point, InterSystems is the high bar for support in the industry. So we educate the prospect on the type of feedback we get from the customers. Then we move in third-party companies who solely exist to rate the performance of software vendors. And of course, a big part of what they rate, whether it's Gartner or KLAS or Chillmark, is the support experience that you can expect from this vendor. We have extremely high, 4.8 out of 5, 98th percentile type ranking. So the third-party analysts do a great job telling the story. But for me, when it really hit home, and this is a very a story that I won't forget anytime soon. We had a sales opportunity, an extremely competitive sales environment for one of the most prestigious brands in healthcare. They probably have somewhere around 100,000 employees total. So
Big company.
Yeah, huge. And we had done business in different areas, different states, different regions of this company for many, many years. But all of a sudden, we had a new initiative that was being driven from the corporate HQ and highly competitive. So it's us, and it's all the big tech vendors that everybody's heard of. Everybody wants to win this business, and a very, very crucial project for this particular healthcare delivery organization. And we got invited for a 4-hour presentation. And Don Woodlock, who's our vice president of healthcare, he called me up on Sunday afternoons. And Don said, hey, I've got an idea. Here's what I want to do. Now, like I said, we had done business with this company for decades. And so we knew that on another project, we had recently gotten a great accolade from one of their project management leaders about how great support was. And so we thought, hey, this is a great quote. We should put this in front of them. Then we decided to dig a little bit deeper. And so we went and we looked at their survey results for the last 12 months. And throughout this organization, we had probably gotten a dozen, maybe 24 calls about whatever it may be. And lo and behold, every single survey, they gave us 10 out of 10. Now, this was 2 years ago. We then got a little carried away. And we went back to 1989. And we had found that since 1989, we literally had a 1,000 batting average. So with all of the ways that we could have closed this meeting, we decided that telling them that story, hey, look, take it from your own people. And by the way, we didn't just start this yesterday, going all the way back to 1989. Your folks, your employees, when they needed our help, when it was all said and done, they told us 10 out of 10 experience. That's how we decided to end that presentation. I am happy to say we were selected vendor of choice for that particular project, and I do believe that ending the meeting on that note had the impact that we had in mind.
Definitely a mic drop moment.
Yes, well, I think it was effective.
You know, at the end of the day, we're helping people. We're helping people be successful, and of course, successful is their definition, not ours. So in healthcare, Randy, as you were describing, you know, it's really an honor to play such a small role in such great service and care that healthcare givers provide to patients every single day. And we're always striving to do a better job there. We're a little bit different, actually we're very different than most support organizations. We put our best people on the front lines. We have an effortless experience to get help. Truth be told, I don't care if a customer's paying for support or not, we're going to help. If they're not paying for support, we'll get the sales organization involved. The customer sets the priority, and we don't close an issue until the customer is really satisfied that they have a resolution. So those principles have really driven this high-touch experience.
The way I view this is there's the direct folks that we interact with, and then there's the folks on the other side of them. And 2 points that I would make. That high-touch model that we have, when we go in with a prospect, they've been using another technology for 20 years. And by they, I mean they have a team of people that in many cases have been employed by this hospital for 20 years. Our competitors would like to displace them with services. And they would like to go in and say, hey, it's time for a new engine. And oh, by the way, we're going to do the conversion for you for $150 an hour. That's their business model. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly fine business model. But what ours allows us to do, we go in and say, hey, look, we've got this great mentoring program. We have this support model that is not hourly billing. We have a fantastic online training mechanism, learning services department. And our message, it's not direct, but it's there. They get it that, look, you've used this other technology for 20 years. Here's the next 20 years of your career. We will make you successful. And that they're not afraid to ask a question because they don't have to go back to their boss and say, hey, look, I got a question, but I know Randy's going to need a couple $100 an hour. Do you mind? But then there's the folks on the other side. And going back to that example from a minute ago, 150 hospitals rely on our technology to stay up and running. If that technology is not up and running, instantly 150 hospitals in 26 states would have to go to pen and paper. So you better
hard to
believe they need our help, and they know that they're going to get it. And so when you think about that scale, where you're talking 40 million patients receive care at any one of these hospitals, and our technology is one of, if not the only, tier one mission critical technologies that span that entire enterprise. That to me is something that I think about and take great pride in.
That really resonates with me, Randy. I said my passion is helping people, and I've been fortunate enough to go to lots of interesting places around the world, and people are really the same. And it doesn't matter where you came from or your background, we're all people. We're all the same. So helping each other really feels good. Let's move beyond support and talk about the culture of the company.
Yep.
And the culture of the company can mean different things to different people. What does the culture of InterSystems mean to you, Randy?
Yeah, and we talked about passion earlier, but to add a little bit to that, every single person at InterSystems is interesting outside of work. You just got to ask them. You just got to strike up a conversation, and you'll realize, oh, I had no idea you were a pilot. I had no idea that you're a musician just like me. Oh, wow, you're a trained operatic singer. That's amazing to me. I'm blown away. We don't have any boring people here. And so that, I think, feeds into the culture. And then the other thing, for whatever it's worth, I've mentioned more than once, I'm a musician. From my personal experience, to be an even halfway decent musician, this means you're willing to put in the work. And that's the culture. It manifests in the work that we do every day, but it's really who my colleagues are as people. That's what drives the success of the culture of the company.
I couldn't agree more, and that's actually one of the reasons I invited you to be the first guest in this series. How many guitars do you have, Randy? Share with the audience.
Well, I've lost count. Something like 35, but
so far.
Yeah, so far. Always looking for the next one.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Randy, thank you for your explanation on culture. I thought that was really good. How has the culture changed or stayed the same over the years from your perspective?
Sure. It's interesting. The company has changed. The way we do business has changed, not least of which COVID, of course, forced us into all sorts of new ways of doing business that we hadn't anticipated, to say the least. But even through that, we continued to thrive. When I started, we were 600 employees. Now we're 1,800. Our international growth has been really astounding. Have all sorts of new, delivery models, clouds here, different services that we're offering. So the company and what we do has changed, but the culture hasn't changed one bit. The priority on hiring exceptional and only exceptional candidates, we haven't relaxed that one bit. While the company has changed and evolved, I think would be the better word, because IT is constantly evolving, the core principles of what made us successful over 45 years, I haven't seen us compromise one bit.
Well, again, Randy, you are a very special person, and I really appreciate you joining us. And I hope our listeners have a better understanding when we talk about Rarified Air and, inspired service and our passion for customer success. So, Randy, thanks for sharing so many great stories from the past. You've provided some great insights. It makes me think of a quote from our first employee, Charles Hotchmuth. His saying was, "It's great to have a past, but it's better to have a future." And Randy, I think we have a great future ahead.
Yeah, I agree, John. Thank you for having me.